Good morning, everyone.
Good
Morning, good
morning.
morning.
Hello. Hi. How are
Hi.
we doing this Saturday morning?
Not bad.
Not too bad.
Not too bad.
Have we had coffee or tea to
Mm-hmm.
help us wake up a little bit?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm doing it from
Yes.
I'm doing it lying in my bed because I have sciatica. So
Oh,
Oh no, I'm so sorry to hear that, Susan. Yes, take it easy. Do what you need to do.
well, thank you. Yeah, I think lying down is better at this stage.
Sure, sure. We'll take it as it comes, and then yeah, just join by video if you feel like it or not. We
Thank,
just love to have you involved any way that you can be
thank,
here.
thank you. And
Great.
yesterday, I'm sorry, the internet just failed me during Rachel's presentation. So I'm sorry, Rachel.
Oh, no, that's okay, Susan.
We
No
have
worry.
we've recorded these sessions too. So if there's anything you want to go back to and refer to, or if you dropped off because of the internet, whatever it is, you can refer to those recordings later. I'll be sending those out, I think maybe late next week.
Okay.
And so as we're all joining, it looks like most of us have renamed ourselves, which is wonderful. That's our routine of the beginning of our session. So your first name and what city you're calling in from. I see Dr. Egley has joined us. Hi there, Dr. Egley. Thank you so much for being here. If you'd like to just say hello really quickly. So he is our special guest. You are muted right now. But just thank you for being here. We have a question and answer and reflection period scheduled for the end of our session today with you. But if you'd just like to say hello and just introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'll just say hello. I'm on the board of PANC. I'm the treasurer actually, and I'm a psychologist. I worked at Kaiser for a long time. I worked with Dr. Saketu or Dr. Kandar a lot, and so that's kind of my involvement. And I'm just here to, I guess, make some comments. You've already done this before, so it's new for me. So we'll see how this goes.
Yes, we had a nice time last night or yesterday afternoon, and so we'll have new content today, and we'll have a lot of great discussion, I'm sure. So, so much to talk about. Wonderful. Okay, we are still getting a few people filing in this morning, which is wonderful. And I don't believe anybody is new. If you are, wave your hand. I think, yes, we're all returning, which is great. So, of course, remember that Kelly is here as our technical support. So if you have any questions, you're able to chat with her and get some support if needed. I'll also ask you to please have some paper next to you today. The printed materials don't correlate with this morning's session. It's more for the afternoon, so just having a blank piece of paper and a pen would be great. And if you need your coffee, your tea, water to keep you hydrated, and of course, anytime you need to take a bio break, go ahead and do that for yourselves. We won't be taking official breaks like that. Okay, so I believe without further ado, we'll just get started unless anybody has any questions. No? All righty.
So, Jim, did you have a question?
Yeah, are we going to have the group's collective recommendation, what we should require on reopening our meetings? Do we require vaccination, masks, spacing, nothing? What should our policy be?
I love that question, Jim, and it's a perfect intro into today's discussion and session because those are the things that we're going to be talking about. So let's put a pin in that, and we're gonna discover many avenues, many new questions that are gonna spring off of that. So thank you for setting us up for today's session. All right, I'm gonna begin to share my screen because that's important if I have slides. And let's see if that works for us. Everyone seeing that?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Alrighty, so session 2, socially engaging in our new world, reframing the logistics of support groups. So that's our topic of the day. Quickly just going to recap those collaboration agreements. So every time we meet, we'd like to abide by these little guidelines of muting our mic when necessary, listening deeply to one another as we share, building on others' ideas by saying yes and then moving with intention because time goes by super quickly, and please being patient with technology and with me, the operator, especially me. So thank you for that in advance. And let's do a little check-in exercise as we get started. So I'm not sure, just from a I can see all of you. Can you just give me a little hand raise if you practice any sort of meditation or breathing exercises on a regular basis? Does anybody do that? I see Maureen does, Charlene, Jennifer, Susan. Yeah, yep. So we're going to do for our here and now check-in exercise, we're going to do 3 deep breaths. Just wanted to talk a little bit about the importance of breathing. Some of us take it for granted. It's just that it just happens. Luckily, our bodies do that for us. But I just want to really emphasize how important breathing really is for us. I've been doing a little bit of studying on the respiratory system and how special it is because it really works in a bidirectional way. So our breathing, it dictates how we feel based on how we're experiencing the world around us. So if we're nervous, our breathing might increase in speed and we might go up into our chest and breathe through our mouths. But what's really cool about breathing is that we have the ability to control our breathing with techniques, which in turn changes the way that we feel in a positive way. And so I think that is very important to know and to understand. And I wish that we were taught that in school as school children, because I'm sure if you've seen the Olympics and you've been watching the athletes when they're preparing for their events, they do special breathing, right? To center themselves, to get them to optimal mental, physical states. We can do that for ourselves every day. And that to me is so empowering. I want to very quickly, I'm going to put it in the chat. I'm just going to share with you a book that I've been reading called Breath by James Nestor. And it just really shows us how important those techniques are. And that can just improve the quality of our lives and our health, our actual health. So today for our exercise, the goal is twofold. So we're going to be kind of talking about or working on the health and well-being aspect of our physical body, but also the well-being of the world around us, right? So two things. And so I would like us to concentrate on using our nose to breathe if possible. If we don't have too many sinus problems or allergies, using the nose breathing is much better for us than breathing through our mouths. And then we also want to calm ourselves with longer, deeper breaths as opposed to short and shallow, right? And then the second part of this, I just want to mention that in meditation, which it draws from Buddhist traditions, it's directing loving kindness to ourselves, to the people that we work with, and then to the greater world at large. And so this 3 deep breaths exercise, we're going to do 1 lovely, deep, long breath for each of those things. So I'd like to begin just finding yourself centered in your body, really kind of feel centered in that pelvis, and thinking of length through your spine so that the top of your head feels like it's being drawn up to the ceiling, pulling that chin in just a little bit, and then just laying those hands on your lap if possible. And then you can close your eyes if you wish. You can soften your gaze and keep them open if you'd like, and just start to notice your breath. Not doing anything with it. Just noticing maybe your chest is rising and falling. Maybe you feel a little bit of wind, a little bit of air going in and out of your nostrils. A little bit of expansion in the back, perhaps. That's it. Okay, now let's go into our intentional breath. So we're going to do 1 deep breath on a 5 count, okay? So here we go. Let's prepare, and we're going to take a deep breath in for 5. We have 1, breathing in 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhaling out for 5 and thinking of yourself, positivity, bringing that in. 2, 3, 4, 5. Very nice. Again, deep breath in, second time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and out. Exhale for 5, thinking of everyone else here in the room with you, sending them love and kindness. 4, 5. Again, third breath, deep breath in. 1, 2, filling those lungs. 3, 4, 5, and exhale out, this time thinking of the whole world. 2, 3, giving love. 4, and 5. And if your eyes are closed, just gently blink them open. And coming back into our space. And maybe, oh, I see a big yawn from Rick. Getting that oxygen and blood flowing. Good, 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 good. So maybe you feel slightly more present. Does anybody have any comments on that? Do you feel a little bit more in your bodies? Maybe a little bit more connected to your emotions or those with us here, even though we're not in the same space. Yes, I get a thumbs up from Rachel. Yep, and Susan. Good, good, good. So breathing is huge. You can do these with your groups, these meditation or breathing exercises. There are free exercises offered on YouTube and apps, all sorts of things. So I would highly recommend incorporating that into your lives if you already haven't. Okay, thank you for spending that time getting us here and present together. Let us now delve into some content for the day. I am going to advance to my slide just to recap what we talked about yesterday, get our brains back into the topics here. So we talked about what is our new normal, our next normal, new paradigm, whatever you want to call it, and whether we even want to go back to the way things were, right? Let's improve on life. We talked about the fear, learning, and growth model, where we might exist right now, the characteristics of our behaviors, and that we might flow back and forth between those different aspects. So just ways to be aware and cognizant of where we are and how we can continue to work on ourselves. We talked about what we miss the most with meeting in person with our favorite people. We also talked about what's most important moving forward with the above the line, below the line exercise, and what we want to keep in our lives, keep in our support groups, and then what we want to get rid of, things that are just wasting our energy, taking our or adding stress to our lives. Okay, so today, let's talk a little bit about today's agenda. So socially engaging in our new world, reframing the logistics of support groups. So first of all, we want to talk about getting everybody back, right? So how do we make sure that no one is left behind? And how do we engage new folks, maybe people who've been recently diagnosed or have moved into our areas who have needs? We're going to talk about making people feel comfortable. So what are the ways that we want people to feel when they come to our support groups? And in order to make that happen, how do we need to change up the logistics in order to make things safe and comfortable for folks? We will then have our roundtable again. We'll have some new industry guests joining us, and we'll have a new topic of the day and go into our breakout rooms, come back for share backs, which was really fun yesterday. And then in the later part of our session, we'll be talking about how to step up the engagement in your group meetings. So Rachel will talk about how to inspire people and keep them attending, keep them enjoying themselves as we start to get back together. And then toward the very end, we will have Dr. Egley for Q&A and reflection, and that will round out our day. All righty. How's everyone doing? Okay? Yes? Okay, good, good, good. Let us talk a little bit about getting your groups back together. So of course, you know, our graphics here, we want to go from the sad person all alone, isolated at home, and then getting back into person. Maybe we won't be hugging like this quite yet, but that's the ideal. We just got to get there slowly and intentionally, right? So I want us to begin this morning by thinking about your list. Who is on your, I don't know if you have an Excel spreadsheet or if you have a written out list that's a little bit more casual, but think about all of the people who are on your list who you used to see on a regular basis prior to the pandemic. So who are those folks? And then some of you, if you could show me with a raised hand, who all went onto Zoom? Who's been doing Zoom meetings with your group? Okay, so I would say, I don't know if that was just a third of us. So that's not very many in here. And so when we're talking about our list, pretty much everybody has been on their own as far as our support group members. Some of us, those of us, the third of us who have been on Zoom, I've noticed that the numbers of people showing up to meetings on Zoom have been greatly reduced because they used to love coming in person, and then a lot of people have been left behind for various reasons, you know, technology, what have you. Who have you not heard from in a while? If anyone wants to unmute themselves and tell me a little bit about their list, and especially those, I'm interested to hear from those who have gone to Zoom. The numbers of support group members showing up for your online meetings versus in person. Does anybody want to share? Just go ahead and unmute yourself. Any experiences for you?
We have about 10 people come to our young onset Parkinson's group, I think. It fluctuates a little bit, but I think there were more in person, but not a great deal more, maybe 15. 15 to 20. Is that right,
Okay.
Myron? You think?
Myron, are you there? I'm not sure if you can hear us. Can you hear us, Myron?
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. So Susan was just talking about the young onset group, and that, did I get this right, that there are 15 to 20 who used to come in person, and then only 10 or so have been coming on Zoom?
That's probably about right.
Okay, that's actually not too bad as far as retention over the pandemic. But yes, so what's happened to those 5 or 10 people who aren't showing up? Like, why is it? What's going on?
It's also interesting that we've had at least 4 new people join us during COVID.
Okay,
They're
are they
really
in your
for-
area?
Yeah, they're really looking for, you know, some folks to get together with. So we've been able to, you know, introduce them to the group, and even though it's not in person, I feel like they really appreciate the just candid talking about Parkinson's and how scary it is for them just being diagnosed. Especially, you know, the person who came last was like 37, I think. You know, so some of these people have children, they're all working. That's why I think sometimes we have not a steady group that comes all the time. We have a core that comes most of the time. But other folks kind of come in and out because they're working and living their lives and handling all of it.
Sure, they're in a different stage of life, right? Different
Yep.
responsibilities. Yes, Myron.
While we're talking about the young onset group, they did do a social evening on, actually it was Cinco de Mayo, and had a dinner, and that turned out really well. I mean,
Yeah.
there were a lot of people that came to that that aren't coming to the Zoom meetings.
Right. Yes, that's true. And then we also started a little pickleball group. One of our co-leads, Tony, has a membership at a club, and he invited us to come. So a few of us came and had a lesson that he arranged for us, which was wonderful. And so some of us are picking that up, and even the new people are like, oh, that's great. And that's a game where you can get your physical activity, but also have a social interaction, because there's 4 people who play doubles. And so that's becoming a kind of a ongoing thing, and it's outside, so we feel safe, and the other social activity was also outside.
That's wonderful. Yes, and that plays in right into the later part of our session today. So maybe we can hear a little bit more about that. That's great. Jennifer, I think I saw you had your hand up.
I did. We've been doing Zoom exercises, from the beginning, and it began with a core group. I would say probably about 12 of us. We still have a strong core group of maybe 8, but we've also acquired possibly half a dozen who come and go from most of them outside the area, actually, who heard about it through a friend or a relative or something like that. But we have a larger group who's involved with our monthly meeting, which is interesting. So they're more interested in the talks and the information sharing and that sort of thing. So we usually have about 15 to 20 on that one.
I see. And remind me, I didn't hear the number of when you met in person.
In person, we have a strong core group of about 8. So
Okay.
I would say we've probably lost, about half a dozen people on the way that we've been trying to reconnect with, and so far haven't been successful. It's rather interesting, but whether they were just uncomfortable doing Zoom, whether they didn't want to work out so often, I don't know. But we've always expressed, come as often as you like, stand up, sit down, join in whenever you like. So we'll see.
Right.
But I'm going to try again to reconnect with those people we've lost.
That's great. Yes, which is sort of what we're going to be talking about right now. Thank you for sharing that. So that question of who's been left behind and why. So is it technical issues? Is they don't have the equipment, the internet access? Is it just apathy of just getting into kind of a rut of being at home, and then they just don't have that same motivation to be as involved? Does anybody have any comment about why they think some of their group members have just disappeared? Jennifer.
I'll just add on one thing that comes to mind. We've actually come across 2 individuals who we've been trying to get back into the group, who the carers are blocking us for whatever reason. We're not allowed to talk to them. They don't want us communicating with them, and we're a little perplexed as to why. But one's a wife, one's a carer, daughter, and they just don't want us communicating. If we call or email, they're fine, and that's it.
That's interesting. It makes me think.
Anybody's got the advice on how to get beyond that. It's like gatekeepers and companies. When you try to get in to sell something, you'll find out about jobs. But it's rather sad, I think, if the carers are blocking the access for those individuals.
Absolutely. It makes me think a little bit of that fear, learning, growth diagram from yesterday. And maybe the carers are in that fear space, and that they're trying to protect and not allow anything from the outside that could potentially be harmful. It's hard to know. It could be just very individual, who knows these folks' circumstances, but I'm curious. Yeah. Rachel, I saw that you had unmuted.
Yes, I was just getting ready to chime in more about the moment before, when Jennifer and Susan mentioned that they had subtractions, but they also had additions. I just wanted to sort of point back to yesterday with Dr. Kandar when he mentioned, you know, that the pandemic was a loss, but it was a subtraction, and there have been additions to this pandemic. And so I just wanted to point that out, that those silver linings where you pulled in new people through Zoom, I think is a real feat. So good on you guys for having those new people and making them feel comfortable through Zoom. And I'm sure that they can't wait to meet you in person when that happens.
Jennifer, you might want to consider just actually talking with the caregivers and ask how they're doing. Because sometimes it's actually an issue that the caregiver just doesn't want to bother because they're so tied up with taking care of the person with Parkinson's. So if you actually engage them and try to, if you want to talk, just help them, just see how they're doing. That
That's a
might
good
be a
point.
way to do it.
Yeah, very valid point. Thank you, Fred.
Maybe there's a care partner support group that could potentially help them specifically, like PMD Alliance that offers one that Rachel leads once a week, for instance. So maybe offering them support as well. Yeah. Thanks, Fred. Okay, so thinking of these folks who've disappeared from our groups, how do we plan to get them re-engaged? So I believe it was Jennifer yesterday who talked about a phone tree. You know, so some of these they don't respond to email. They're not on their computer. They're not on a computer at all. Maybe snail mailings. Maybe you have one event that will be in person, and you can send out hard copy invitations, but you need addresses, of course. So that depends on your infrastructure and if you have that already in your system. Does anybody have any ideas on how to re-engage those folks who have sort of fallen by the wayside? And this is a
Well,
tough one.
I have an idea or a thought.
Yes, Jim.
As we mentioned yesterday, we are helped by combining support groups and inviting other support groups. And I think that for our particular support group, we have such a large number when we were live that having a third or so of our live member meetings still gives us 20 to 30 people at the Zoom meetings. And the pulling in these people from other support group has maintained a good number for our attendance. Re-engaging the ones that aren't attending, I think the novelty of the Zoom meetings has worn off somewhat, in the sense that people expected the Zoom. It was it was quite something to begin with, and they expected it to replace the live meetings, but it can't. And so they became a little disappointed, and that's why they thought, well, I'll just wait until the live meetings resume. You just have to make your Zoom meeting topics and speakers enticing enough to re-engage, I guess.
That's a very good point. Yes, we call that Zoom fatigue, don't we? And so, yeah, so many of us are on Zoom all day long, and it's just like, oh, another meeting. And so there's that reluctance to join because of those reasons. And I wanted to mention too, Jim, because you're bringing in these other groups and you're getting these 20 to 30 folks showing up in person, I'm curious too, just to throw in the mix, you know, what is that critical mass? What's that magic number of getting people together in the same space, and then there's that magic energy that happens because there's that good number of folks with the sharing and the meeting someone else, and meeting new people, and that exchange and learning. So I think that is something to consider, is like having that critical mass of folks who've shown up. Let's see here. Fred, I see your hand is raised if you'd like to unmute.
Actually, Charlene was ahead of me.
Oh, Charlene, did you have something to share?
I was wanting to share something about the Zoom experience and people who may have dropped off from that. So initially, the Zoom experience, we were all new. It was, some of my first meetings with groups were a nightmare, and I just kind of like checked out. I didn't keep going. I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is not going to work, blah, blah. And then I re-engaged after they had had some experience and kind of got some of the tips and tricks and ironed out some of the, those issues. And then it, like you said, it wasn't the same, but it was so much better. And I think maybe as we re-engage people who maybe re-invite them back to Zoom to, just call that out. Like, we know it was maybe uncomfortable the first time, but this is what we've learned. This is how it's, how we've adapted. Might be something to get people re-engaged.
Great point, Charlene. Thank you. Yes, there's that learning curve. And I'm still learning every day. And that's just the way it goes, right? We're all human. We're all, we're going to make mistakes, and sometimes these things are difficult to have flow in a way that just feels organic, and so there are awkward moments, absolutely. But I think that's where the grace comes in with ourselves and with each other, and just patience and things like that. So, but good point. I know it can be super frustrating to be on a meeting that is just, it's just difficult. So. Yes. Now, Fred, what would you like to say?
Well, sort of what you said and sort of what Jim said, I wanted to speak to, and that is, there's one of my groups, or the one groups I work with, that the facilitator is going to be on a sabbatical and wanted to have other people take over. And they said, well, there are other groups we can attend to on Zoom, so we'll just not have anybody we won't be engaged, and we'll just join other groups. So that's one of the blessings and curses of having Zoom, is that, there are other choices, so that, okay, well, if I'm not going to keep with this group, I'll just go find another group. So that's one of the things, until you actually meet in person and can actually have that face-to-face. So that's one of the problems. The other problem, again, a blessing and a curse of Zoom, is that you have the national organizations like PMD Alliance and Parkinson Foundation and ADPA and those groups, Michael J. Fox and Davis Finney, we're having these wonderful educational Zoom meetings, Zoom sessions, webinars. Well, if you can get your education that way, why go to your local support group for education? So again, blessings and curses, and these are just the things that have happened in our, in this time of our existence. So all sorts of different reasons, but one of those things haven't been mentioned before.
Yes, thank you, Fred. Yeah. So yeah, one of the silver linings is that there's been so much education. I think we're all much more informed now than we were a year and a half ago about Parkinson's and about all the intricacies and different perspectives coming from different medical experts, things like that. But then, yes, so what does that leave for the support groups to do? So I personally think, and we at PMD Alliance, our support groups that we offer each week, our online communities, is for the socialization. It's for the connection. It's for the talking. It's for the sharing and asking questions, as opposed to let's have a speaker on and hear from this person and just sit and listen. It's more about the interaction. And so maybe that's where our support groups can take up what's needed in that regard, as opposed to trying to just give more information, more education, because that is so it's so prevalent and accessible online right now. So maybe switching gears and maybe doing something new, because times are different, right, with our group. So making different choices there. So thank you all for those thoughts, and I want us to start thinking about what our plan might be for reconvening if we already haven't gotten back in person yet. So when the optimal time might be. Do you want to really reach out to new people in your area? Do you want to keep it to a certain size so that there's more sharing that's possible in a more intimate way? Say if you have a care partners group. So I just want to, throw that question out there and keep moving forward. So here is a slide of sentiments, or just little statements that I thought would be coming from the perspective of the group member, of how do we want them to feel, right? So I feel safe. Do we want them to feel safe when they come to meetings? Of course. Yeah, we don't want to, them to feel nervous or threatened or, reluctant to come. I am at home when I am here. How about I know what to expect? Some people find safety and in routine, or having things, guidelines set up ahead of time, knowing the different protocols as far as COVID are concerned, having those set beforehand. How about I can enjoy myself when I'm at the support group meeting, or I love seeing my friends again, right? So I like to put myself into other people's shoes and think about how do we best serve their needs, right? So are there any other little quotes that you would wish would come out of the mouths of your support group members? How do you want them to feel when they come? Why should they come? Anybody have any thoughts?
We should make them feel that they are coming because we want them to contribute and not just attend and observe and absorb.
Wonderful.
Make them feel important.
Yeah, like I am part of something.
Mm-hmm.
And I matter.
Yeah.
That's great. Jennifer.
I like to build on the I feel safe, that they feel safe to share what their concerns are, what their challenges are, what they're struggling with, because often they don't want to burden their relatives or their carers with how they truly are feeling or what they're experiencing. And I think with the group, they know the group understands, and they share a lot more. We found at our lunches, we had a lot of sharing going on about different ailments, different challenges that they didn't otherwise share with people around them.
That's perfect. And maybe that would be encapsulated in something like, I am not alone. I'm not on this journey alone. Yeah, that's a big one. Susan and Yuba.
Hi. You know what I thought of? Somebody said something. We need each other. We need you to make them feel a part of,
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
Great.
All of these things are very important, right? And that it really kind of, I think, drills down to what are those emotional needs? Why our support groups even exist in the first place? Yeah. So, just to think about these statements. What do you want people to feel when they come? All right. I'm just gonna check something quickly. Yes. Jennifer hit on it. I am understood. Thank you for
My
that,
wife
Fred.
says, these are my people.
Ah,
Yep.
these are my people. That's good. Uh-huh. It might be just little shifts in language, but it can mean so much, right? To the individual. The words matter. They really matter.
And I saw
Good.
Sherry. Sherry, did you pick your hand up a bit?
I did. I just wanted to add, I haven't gone to one of these meetings, but for me, I always want to go someplace where I think it's fun and I'm learning something new. So, if you've got a guest speaker or you've got some kind of activity that maybe an individual isn't getting at home, that's just fun and exciting, and they look forward to this activity that's going on. And we all need more fun in our lives. So I think, that would be a good thing too.
That is for sure, especially now. Woof.
Exactly.
To be able to have fun and enjoy ourselves. Great. Thank you all for sharing. Okay, so where do we begin? So I have a few things that I'd like to share with you as we think about reconvening in person for our group meetings in the coming future. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with a writer named Priya Parker. She's written a wonderful book that I read probably a couple years ago now called The Art of Gathering. And so she is a master facilitator. She does all sorts of interesting gatherings for different kinds of people and groups all over the world. And so she is really one wonderful person to learn from. I have been following her during the pandemic as well because things have changed, of course. And so she is now adapting her book, The Art of Gathering, to the current climate and the ways that we need to change and adapt things. So I've put in the chat Priya Parker, the book, and so that shows the Art of Gathering book. But her website allows for accessing resources that are the updates, since the pandemic. So I just wanted to mention to you in an email that she had sent out. She was talking about various principles for re-entering back into society, into our groups, into our regular meetings with people. She says how important it is to acknowledge the moment. So not just to go right back into our first meeting and just pretend it never happened, let's allow for some time for reflection and really talk about, okay, yes, this occurred and these are the things that happened to all of us and these are the ways that we're feeling. And so just to really emphasize that, to take the time to acknowledge what has occurred, as opposed to brushing it under the rug or wishing it away. Yeah, that's not really the case, is it? Karen, I saw that you unmuted. Did you want to share, Karen? Oh, maybe she can't hear. Well, I'll just keep going. If you want to share, Karen, just let me know. So centering the physical space and capturing fresh eyes. So when you do come back into your in-person meeting again, really taking stock of what's around you physically and center the space. Maybe you want to gather in a circle. Maybe you want to see what's around you through new eyes and with maybe more gratitude. Or how is it that we can change our circumstances or our meeting dynamics based on the new needs of COVID and physical distancing, say. So just to really utilize your physical space in the best way possible and be intentional about it. And then she also says to go slow and allow for unexpected emotions and awkward moments. I don't know how many of you have gone back into society and just have had really weird interactions with strangers and you don't know how to do things or interact anymore. It's funny. You have to laugh, but just to allow for a time period of warming back up of knowing how to talk to each other and how to look at each other and be with each other again during, because we've been so isolated for so long. So I just want to point out those little principles that Priya has suggested for us as we re-enter. And then I want to reconsider our group's new ground rules. So Jim had touched on this at the beginning of the meeting. What are we going to require as we come back? Are we going to say everyone has to be vaccinated? Or everyone has to wear masks? Are we going to physically distance? Are we going to take temperatures or have hand sanitizer? Do we need to have a signed agreement before everybody shows up? Like, what are we going to agree to as we come back to our meeting? So this is the disclaimer part where COVID is changing so quickly every day. We don't know what to expect, right? And so we don't have any answers for you, unfortunately. This is all going to be adapting in that flexibility that we talked about yesterday. And it's also really important to touch in with your group members. What do they want? What is it that makes them feel safe? And having that discussion with them prior to your first meeting, maybe doing it via Zoom or a teleconference, phone call, whatever it is that needs to happen. But then actually making an agreement with your group members prior to meeting in person again. And just getting that out on the table so that there are no questions, because we want people to feel safe and that they know what to expect. Yeah, so this is the hard part of it all. We at PMD Alliance are starting to go back in person for our events. And yes, we have a live in-sync workshop at the end of August in Phoenix. And we're gonna go on with it, but we're gonna have to physically distance. We're gonna have to wear masks because we're inside. So we didn't think we had to do that 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, whenever it was. And you just don't know. But start to think about what it is that you need to decide on with your group. And yes, Fred, I see your hand. Let's see, you're mute. There, you're muted again. There you are.
It'll be a really a local decision, because we're scattered, and your county, your city's experience with what's going on with COVID will be different than another cities or counties. So strongly suggest you work with your local county, see what their current recommendations are, and follow their current recommendations. And they will change that from day to day, week to week, or whatever. So even PANC can't give you a general recommendation just because we're so scattered, and the recommendations will vary. So
very good point.
That's what I would suggest. You can just check in with your county.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you for that. And so yes, those specific guidelines per county, and then even your facility might, if you're meeting at a church or if you're meeting at a restaurant, their business specific guidelines are going to be changing from week to week. So flexibility is probably what this whole workshop should be called. I think that's the name of the game right now. One last little bullet before we move on to our roundtable. I see that we've had some of our industry partner guests join us, so thank you for coming. We're just about there. So this just leads into this last bullet of, it's a matter of logistics. What kind of space do you need to be? Indoors, outdoors, depending on where you live and the weather. Your meeting frequency, is that going to change when you start to go in person? Maybe you can keep some Zoom meetings as well as in person, because you're gonna lose some people if you don't do Zoom, right? And then some of you, I know Jim, I think it is, who's wanting to do hybrid. Very complicated technologically. It's possible, but it takes a lot of equipment and know-how and time to set up and all of that. So I am going to wrap up this little session here before we go into the roundtable, and we can keep discussing this in just a moment. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. Alrighty, so I just want to again welcome our industry partners. We have, it looks like Daryl and Trevor Curry. We've got Tom. Am I missing anyone who showed up? I think it's the three of you. Okay, great. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can all see each other. All right. Okay, hello. So why don't we, since we're going into our roundtable discussion, so for our industry partners, thank you for coming. These are support group leaders, mostly located in the Northern California area. We have a couple of outliers on the East Coast and things like that. But our intention today is to have some nice discussion and to introduce you to them and vice versa. Just to set the stage for later engagement so that they're going to receive your contact information and they can contact you if they'd like you to do some sort of informational discussions with the support groups, okay? So if we could start with Tom Dahlberg, it looks like. Hi there, what company are you with, Tom?
Hey, Shannon, I'm with Synovian Pharmaceuticals, and I live in Roseville, California. And I've been with the company for about 11 years, and it's an honor to support you and the Parkinson's community, and just very glad to be here and look forward to hearing from everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here, Tom. Okay, how about we go to Daryl? Daryl, would you like to unmute yourself and introduce yourself?
How you doing? My name is Daryl Brown, and I'm with Amneal Pharmaceuticals in the Northern California area. And I just want to say thanks for inviting us.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming. Nice to have you.
Certainly.
Where are you located, Daryl?
I am in Vallejo, California.
Okay, great. Perfect. And then it looks like we've got Trevor Curry, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, and good morning, everyone. I'm Trevor with Amneal Pharmaceuticals, and I'm in the Sacramento area. Thanks to everyone for letting us be a part of your group and be involved with your discussion.
Absolutely. Thanks for your partnerships and allowing for programs like this to happen. So thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to try a little bit something new today. Kelly in the background, I think she's been working on the breakout rooms, and so we didn't have to take as much of a pause today as yesterday. How's that going, Kelly?
I believe we are set up and ready to go whenever you are.
Excellent. Okay, so I am going to, first of all, I need to share in the chat. This is going to be our question of the day. How do you envision the next iteration of your support group moving forward, right? And no, I know some of you aren't necessarily support group leaders right now, but we can adapt the conversation into what is applicable to you, whether you want to join a support group and what that support group might look like. I want to just share this screen with you so we know what to expect. So we're going into breakout rooms of 4 to 5 people. And that's going to happen automatically. These are randomly selected. You'll have about 16 minutes to chat, about 4 minutes per person. Once you get into your room, hopefully you've got a new selection of folks than who you were with yesterday. Try to have a new leader. So if you led yesterday, select somebody new to lead, and that person can take notes as you have your discussion, and then we'll come back to the main room and then share with everybody the top insights that you've learned during your discussion. And I think that's pretty much the main topics here. Let's see. So I wanted you to discuss, like, what are the ideal components of that support group? in your future support group. So what kind of space do you want to be in? What do you envision? How often do you want to meet? What kind of a meeting do you want to have? What are the qualities of the group interaction that you'd like to be involved with? And then you can keep in mind the above and below the line exercise that we did yesterday, and really concentrating on that above the line information and what is it that you want to incorporate into your support group moving forward. Okie dokie, does that sound good to everybody? I'm gonna stop sharing so we can all see each other. So thumbs up, everybody's good. And let's see, so Dr. Egley, I just got your little private message. So just participating would be wonderful. and then later we'll have some Q&A and reflection. So hopefully that's good with you. And
I just wanna make a note that Charlene's internet's unstable, so she turned her video off. So who's ever in a room with her, she's there, and she'll talk, but it's easier video off for her.
Thanks, Rachel. Alrighty, so enjoy your breakout rooms and we'll see you on the other side. And Kelly, you can hit the magic button.
All right, here we go.
All right, Miss Karen. We'll see if we can get you in a room.
Yeah, let's see.
Welcome back, everyone. How did it go? Did you have a good time in there? Yeah, good, good. Well, I think we all made it back in one piece. That's good news. So I'm curious to hear all about your plans for the future and what your groups are going to look like. Let's go room by room. We're going to start with room number 1, which had Daryl, Judy, Mark, Myron, and Sherry Carter. Who was your leader of the day?
That would be me. Everybody else said, we had one person say, well, I'm not good at doing this. And then somebody said, I second that, third it, and fourth it. So I didn't speak up soon enough. So I am I'm the guest speaker.
Well, thank you. Taking one for the team.
Yes. So it was actually, I'm finding out more and more as I go to these workshops and stuff. They're very interesting. But what they found is, how do you envision the next iteration of your support group moving forward? Myron mentioned that he really thinks we're kind of in a holding pattern. And that's mainly because we still aren't completely opened up. Things are still closed up. And so, it's kind of at this point still, business as usual. Although Myron did mention they had one meeting. And what ended up happening at this meeting is that they had 6 individuals that were repeat members and 8 new members. So, right. So, which to me is good. Somebody's getting that word out so that people are finding out about it. Myron also mentioned that the support groups, their numbers are listed and things like that, so that individuals that might be looking for these types of resources can go to the listing and find somebody in their area to be able to call and get additional information about meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Judy mentioned that she thought that meetings were going to be very similar to what they were prior to the pandemic, but better, because we've learned more about ourselves, about the pandemic, about Zoom. Those are all really important tools. So if something down the road happens where, somebody can't maybe attend a meeting or something like that, that if you have it on Zoom, somebody can actually attend a meeting from home, even if there are others, meeting in place. Myron had mentioned, no, excuse me, it wasn't Myron, it was Daryl, felt that we're moving too fast at really opening things up. There, now we've got the variant. And so that's definitely gonna keep us from moving forward, maybe to opening up fully. And so we're going to have to learn again to communicate differently, through virtual meetings, Zoom, the hybrid, telecommunications. And Mark had mentioned, with hybrid, that he's interested in knowing more about the technological challenges that come with doing meetings through hybrid. Myron mentioned that there are support groups that have the funding and the resources to be able to do those hybrid meetings. Not everybody has those resources, the money's available to do that. So what's going to happen to those groups that aren't in a position financially, or have individuals who know the technology to be able to actually do a hybrid meeting? So those were all like challenges. I think there's always challenges in life. We're still navigating, 18 months later, we're still navigating in light of COVID, what's going on. Even though things are starting to open up, there's still the unknown on how we're going to proceed with things. But for the most part, everybody's very positive that, they're going to get, information out there. I mean, I asked a question about, do you ever call people if you hear about someone at a meeting who says, I've got a neighbor who was just diagnosed with Parkinson's? How do you get that information out to them? Can you send them information through the mail? Can you give them a call if the individual is okay with it? So you can kind of tell them about your programs and your support groups and things like that. And I think that's it. I think that's it.
That was
Covered
a lot.
everything.
Group one. Yes. So yes, complexities continuing with the variant, singular and probably plural, continuing into the future. And so we just, again, have to be adaptable. And then, yes, so I am planning one of these weeks to do a hybrid training for support group leaders. What we are recommending right now, and this is even something that I've learned through Dance for PD, since that is a program that I've trained in and I've taught with. I meet with them online regularly as far as moving forward and how people are teaching classes across the country. And it's even recommended by them right now to hold separate meetings. Like one group can do in-person meeting once a month if they want, and then they can do a separate Zoom meeting a different time of the month or multiple times if they want. That way, the support group leader is able to meet the needs of whoever is in that meeting fully, whether it's in person, all those people, or whether it's the people in the Zoom room. It's very difficult for one person to meet the needs of everyone. And so it kind of takes about 4 people to run a hybrid meeting, and a lot of technical know-how if you want it to be effective as far as having everyone in the in-person meeting hear and see everybody on Zoom, and then the opposite. So if you want to have everybody on Zoom hear and see everybody in the room, it takes a lot. You can make it simpler than that, but we are recommending right now, go ahead and have both, and when you have a speaker, do it on Zoom, and they can be across the country if they need to be, and everyone can participate in that no matter where they live. And then do the in-person for those folks who only show up for in-person, and that could be a really nice social interactive activity for them. So that's what we're saying now. We will do a hybrid training hopefully soon. Thank you so much, group one. Great stuff. Let's go to room 2. We have Betty, Charlene, Fred, and Tom Dahlberg. Who was your leader?
We never chose one.
Ah, are you the de facto?
I'll let Betty. She's had the best comments anyway.
Well, I think what we're doing in our group is we realize we're on a learning curve. And we've asked we have a meeting coming on Thursday. In the meeting, we've asked people what they want to do. Things have changed, and we're going to listen to see what the possibilities are. Jim has indicated before that we're interested in doing the hybrid, but and Charlene and Tom and Fred all came up with some great ideas as far as having people assist you doing this by contacting a high school, a college, or something close to the church. So it may be a possibility to do that. As we do know, our grandkids are the ones who know all the answers to these kinds of problems. So recruiting that age group would certainly help us out an awful lot. I think that we need to understand where people are coming from. People are looking at the world differently now than they did earlier. So there are much concerns about their safety, their concerns, as Daryl mentioned before, that some people think it's too early to be doing this. So I think what we need to do is just sit back, listen to these people, see what they want to do, and move in that direction. Is there anything else we need to add to Tom or Charlene, to Fred?
Just a few things. Well, Charlene had, why don't you talk, Charlene, too?
I think we one of the surprising things that we talked about as far as maybe switching up how we meet, whether it's the care partners and the Parkinson's group together, kind of separate. With Zoom, we could possibly do like breakout rooms to give our Parkinson's members a little bit more opportunity to speak openly amongst themselves and to deal with the kind of delay that Zoom has. I guess those were the other idea I think we had, and Betty talked even in person about doing kind of a breakout session with them, with the two groups separate so they could more openly share, I guess.
Great point, Charlene and Betty, as far as the breakouts are concerned. Even if you have a group of similar type of people in the same room, say it's only care partners, but you have 12. So even a group of 12, it's hard for everybody to talk. So what if you broke it up into 3 groups of 4 or 4 groups of 3, something like that, where everybody has a chance to speak and get some feedback, ask some questions, whatever it is. But breakouts in general are awesome, whether it's in person or on Zoom. So I think it's great to incorporate that.
I will differ with you, Shannon, on your Dance for PD's concept of in-person and Zoom sessions. At least I don't know of many facilitators who have the time or ability to have 2 different sessions. I just really, I can't see very many facilitators having that ability. So I think you really have to make it as simple as possible. Start simple. And then if you want to become more complex as you're able to technologically, that's fine. But as I was saying to our group, all you need is if you don't have Wi-Fi, forget hybrid. Wherever you're meeting, you have to have Wi-Fi. So if you don't have Wi-Fi, don't even try to do this. If you do have Wi-Fi, if you have a smaller group, like 10 or so in person and however many on Zoom, all you need is a laptop. And if you position it so the people who are viewing on Zoom can see the people in the room, and the people in the room can somewhat see the people on Zoom, you're just trying to get people together. You don't have to necessarily see their faces, each one individually. You're just trying to have that groups type of feeling. Now, if you have the ability to bring in a large TV, flat screen TV, 55 inch or so, and connect your laptop to the TV screen, that's even better, but you don't have to.
Sure, there
So
are
just start
simpler
simple, start
There
simple.
are simple, and I guess it just depends on your goal. What is your goal for those folks meeting? It's going to happen with folks in person. They're going to have their conversations amongst themselves, and so the people on Zoom are not going to be a part of that. And then the same can happen on Zoom. So that but if that's intentional. And if you have someone leading that aspect on Zoom, someone facilitating those conversations on Zoom, and someone who is facilitating those conversations, and so it's kind of like it's almost like two meetings happening next to each other in a way, and then sometimes there might be an interaction, but it really depends on your goal. So yes, it can be simpler, just not perfect. Yes.
For most facilitators, you have to be as simple as possible.
Mhm.
Just be realistic.
Yes. Yeah.
I do think it was a really terrific idea that Betty brought up to involve the local community, the education community, so the schools, and involve the kids that are educated and know the technology and are able and willing to help. I bet schools and universities have volunteer programs already set up, a matter of you kind of doing some research to find it out. But what a great idea to have those younger folks come in and help you get those things set up.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Betty.
The intergenerational exchange can be very worthwhile as well. Okay, so let's just looking at time. We have 3 more groups to get through here. So we've got room number 3, Carolyn, Colette, Karen, Susan, and Trevor.
Hi, thank you. I was given the lovely task of leading this group. It was an honor. It's an honor. It really is. First of all, I love keep it simple. Absolutely. We talked about the county recommendation. I thought was huge. That's where I would like to see it start, so that we get off on the right foot and that everybody's on the same page. That's simple and that's important. Also, to recognize that Parkinson's is not who we are. It's a part of who we are, but it's not the whole. And therefore, I think we need to make it more relaxed and more comfortable. And I'm hoping I'm going to make literally a roundtable discussion, because I feel it's not working as well as it would the way we have it set up now. We have a rectangle table, and it's hard to get to see everybody and feel comfortable with everybody. I want to be able to make and this is just my personal part in this discussion, is that I'd like to make it comfortable so that when we start the meeting, we start it on a positive note. We talk about, and then we talk about things that we have questions about. Where can we find the answers? Do we need to, when would we like to talk to a pharmaceutical company and have them come in with some of their expertise? I think that's important. We only meet right now once a month, and Monday is our first meeting in this whole time. So it's more of a get the individual comfortable with each other and with themselves and being there, and know that they are supportive, and have that balance of interaction and socialization, as well as the educational and informative viewpoints also. And for me, I think it's going to be very important to start, like I said, start on a positive note, on a feel-good note, and then to end on a feel-good note. You know, I want to be able to walk out of there and have people feel good about what we just experienced together, because we are all this, you know, we're in this together. We're all the same, but we're different. But yet this is who, you know, this is our lot in life, as they say. And, you know, we're going to be there for each other. So that's all I got.
I love
And
that.
Colette, anybody else want to chime in? Trevor, Carolyn, Karen.
That was
Okay.
great. Lovely. Thank you, Susan. I love that.
Sure.
Starting on a high note and then getting into the questions and then sharing, you know, maybe some of the challenges and then ending on a high note. So that it's like a true journey, beginning, middle, and end,
Right.
which is, you know, something that Priya Parker talks about. Every gathering should have a beginning, middle, and end. Wonderful. Thank you, group 3. Excellent. Let's move to group 4, Charisse, Eric, Jim, and Susan Curry. Who was your leader?
Charisse, you're not unmuted. You're still muted, Charisse.
I was
There you go.
hoping Jim would have chimed in since I was still muted. Jim was gracious enough to allow me to be the leader this time around. We had a very informative group. I also, before I start my report, I would like to tell everyone or ask everyone, when you indicate that you wanted young people to participate and support you technology-wise, here in Washington, D.C., we have 100 hours of community service that each student has to participate in before graduating from high school. So please look into your local high schools to find out what their community service requirements are so that they can participate in your support group meetings, whether it be technology, whether it be setup, breakdown. For those who may have a talent, maybe they can come in and play an instrument, they can come in and sing, something different that would enlighten your membership to come in and support you. And now I'm going to start my report. We had several discussions as it related to safety concerns. First of all, about attending the meetings. Of course, we want everyone to be comfortable and feel safe. We will definitely require masks. And if individuals came without a mask, we would have masks on site for them to have. We would also have those who are non-vaccinated as well as those who are vaccinated to be able to participate in the monthly meetings or weekly meetings, however you have it set up. And we would have space provided for those who are non-vaccinated as well as those who have been vaccinated. And this is just to support social distancing. We would also have membership guidelines for those individuals who wanted to start attending again. And maybe we might send out a phone tree or a questionnaire to our members. We would also have them to invite individuals who they know of, whether they are caregivers or PD patients, to the meeting so that that can help build up membership. We also require knowledge of how to use a mask, whether they know how to use it or not. Demonstration could be wearing it over the nose as well as the mouth. We would definitely have rules and guidelines to be able to participate within the monthly meeting, as well as outdoor and indoor events. Continue to offer Zoom meetings until everyone feels comfortable about coming back and participating. And by doing a Zoom call, we can also do a poll and ask individuals with the questionnaire how comfortable they would feel about attending a meeting or also still doing a Zoom meeting. We may have to change the date and time of our meeting because individuals have doctor's appointments, vacations, etc. So those things we would be open to. We would definitely extend a Zoom or a hybrid once we had all of these things in place for not only our new members, but existing members. We may also start having our meetings outside. We will also take into consideration the mobility, the parking aspect of our cars, wheelchairs, to accommodate those who need those types of provisions to attend the meetings. Several ideas for having outdoor events would be picnic areas, a park, a coffee house, a rooftop at a restaurant, museums, etc. And then we also talked about maybe changing the name of our support group. Some people may feel apprehensive about attending a group that is called a support group. So we would definitely do another questionnaire, maybe to assist those with renaming the support group. My group, once again, was Eric, Susan, Jim, and myself. My team, if you would, please chime in if I have forgotten anything.
Excellent.
I'm impressed. I think you should be executive director of all of our groups. Yeah, you have it. You're so organized, Cherise.
Thank
That's
you.
amazing to me. Wonderful.
Very
So
good.
many. I'm glad that we're recording this so that we can all look back at this.
Yeah, I mean, the details of those logistics that you're trying to work out, I think answers or kind of just clues people in on everything that we're talking about and everything that everybody is thinking about for the future. And that question that Jim posed before we started today, I don't even think you were here, Cherise. He basically questioned how we will move forward into the future and how we will do this with masks or vaccinated or not vaccinated. And you really put it so eloquently with sort of rules and regulations. And I appreciate that. I think that's a great idea to consider.
I hate to burst your bubble, but I think you're going to also antagonize some people with those rules and regulations. So just to let you know that that's the reality in today's society.
That can be the case for.
Yeah.
Oh, was
Well,
that
I was-
Dr. Egley? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I was in that group, and I think people would be, I felt it was important to contact people ahead of time about what they want, because, I know people who would not go to a group if people went who were not vaccinated. And if there was only 1 or 2 people not vaccinated who wanted to come, and you're going to lose 5 people, what trade-off do you make? And safety is still really up in the air, even with masks. And so anyway, I think we need to do more research, but people need to be clued in. But I do know that will exclude people, or people will self-exclude, maybe either way. And maybe we need to take a look and see how that works. But I was talking to somebody yesterday, one of the doctors, and if it's a life and death issue, we have to get it right. I mean, it's a solemn responsibility from my perspective. And so we need to really do some research and think as we watch the development of variants and that sort of thing, because it is a life and death issue for our people. So anyway, that's all.
So true. Thank you for that, Dr. Egley, and we can get into some of those nitty-gritty aspects during the Q&A toward the end of a session today. I'd like to pick your brain about some of that, and what do we do in the medium term or the short term here, where we don't really know, and it feels like we kind of never know anything. We just have to make choices sometimes without knowing. Okay, wow, that was a lot of great information there. We have one more group, which is Jennifer, Maureen, Rick, and Susan in Sacramento.
Yes, and we took a vote and we voted Fred as our spokesman.
Even though he's not part of the group.
That's right. I can pick on him a little bit. I know him a little bit. So. Our group, when we started talking about how do we envision changes, and it started off by just saying that why don't we just kind of continue doing what we're doing till we get back into a normal mode so we could return to somewhat normal. But then as the four of us start talking, each group does a few things that are a little different that are working right now. And I think each of the groups then are thinking, well, gee, I could probably add that to my group. So I think underlying thing is we slowly started to see that we could change the way we're doing what we're doing and ease back into the mode. But such things, my group pretty much shut down here in Vacaville. Our facilitator was not into electronics, didn't want to meet, this and that. So we kind of shut down, and now that person moved out of the state even to get away from California, I guess. So we're going to start back up again. And, one of those things, everybody stepped back except for me fast enough. So I'm going to step up and be the facilitator and help run it. And we do that at the Vacaville Senior Center. So that's our location. So when we have our meetings, we're going to be following the rules that the Senior Center has set up for everyone to follow. And kind of going along with those thoughts, we shut down, and I hear from Maureen how they stepped up and started meeting again as early as March. And they meet at a church, and they have their rules for coming in with the masks and things along those lines. And they were having people come and meet, and they've been meeting since March. And I thought, wow, that's great. The other two, Jennifer and Susan, they've been meeting, but the things they've been doing to meet, I think, are great ideas. And I could see possibly changes definitely coming to my group, trying to follow the things that they do. They've been having groups get together for social events with outdoor picnics, meals outside. I think Susan was talking about pickleball and doing some other athletic things, paddle boarding and other things. It gets people out and gets them moving. Well, one of the questions I had was, what time do you hold your meetings to get all these people that are so active? And that's another thought. Most of us tend to hold our meetings maybe during the day. We have an older group then that meets during the day that are retired. They held their meetings in the evenings at 6, made it a little tough for dinner, but they got a younger crowd. And so the younger crowd, they came in with the older crowd. Everybody wanted to do things a little different. And so the physical activity things that they organized and they started doing, to me, that's just a great idea. So that's something else that we kind of need to look at doing. I also belong to a men's retired group, the SIRS. And, we had to shut down. We have our luncheons. It's a social thing. But we started having hybrid meetings so that some of us could meet outside. And then we had one person that was designated to take care of the computer and get everybody involved and some have the computer. And it worked very well. So while hybrid meetings, like Fred says, can be really challenging, but if you have somebody that's somewhat knowledgeable of Zoom and how to use the computer and things, it works very well. So I was able to keep the SIRS together and doing the hybrid meetings and what have you. So it can work. You just have to have somebody paying attention to it. Something was brought up now to restart our meetings, maybe making phone calls to members. If you were able to get the members and their information, if they didn't mind them being on a list. And that's something that we have. And we did that in SIRS. We got 140 members and we called every one of them, got them going. So it's not impossible to do. So if you have the names, the numbers, you can call and just talk how things are going, kind of like a little support meeting right on the telephone. And then that kind of eases into possibly the face-to-face. Facebook pages. I think it is, Susan, you have one and we have one. I started a Facebook page. If you want to look at it, it's called the VACA Trimmers, VACA and Trimmers. And my wife, who has Parkinson's, she's the one that came up with the name. So I thought it would fit okay. Didn't seem to insult anybody, but they all liked it. You can come in and get on our Facebook page if you want to join us. The reason we bring people in is if you have some kind of connection with Parkinson's or whatever, and we share information. And we share information a little bit with the Benicia group and share information a little bit with the Woodland group. She's on there sharing with us quite a bit. So there's some information there on that. But we start looking at different technologies, really, how we're going to reform, get back together. and so forth. I like some of the ideas that, you know, like Jennifer and Susan have with their social events and their outings that they do, the pickleball, the paddle boarding, picnics. So we started off, well, we're not really going to change. We're just going to kind of do our things to get back to the middle. And then, you know, well, we got ideas from everybody. And I think we'll all implement some of these kind of changes as we get rolling.
Wow. Talk about ideas. Oh my goodness. We've got a lot of expertise here in this Zoom room. So I'm so grateful for that and all the sharing that's happening right now. Yes, so I hope that this roundtable has been helpful for everybody, for our support group leaders, but also for our guests, our industry partners. And maybe you have come away with a little bit of insight as far as the needs and the struggles and the good parts, you know, the joys of having support groups. I see Fred has his hand raised.
I'll just reiterate, I hope, and sort of tail off on what Dr. Egley said. I hope we'll be civil to each other. If you're too authoritarian, you're going to turn people off. And I think we need to start a dialogue and to explain that we need to watch out for each other. This is our community. And you need to say, okay, well, I have my personal opinion, but I need to respect other people's need for safety. And if we can talk about it with each other and say, okay, you know, I may not want to be restricted myself, but to help other people feel safe and comfortable, I'll do this. So and this is what I hope to do in, you know, society as a whole, but we can certainly try to do it within our Parkinson's community.
Absolutely. I mean, we hopefully have established relationships with a lot of these people prior to COVID. And so they're not just any random person on the street. They're people we know and love and hopefully respect and care about. And so because of all the different perspectives and approaches to what's been going on, yes, that open dialogue, so important, and coming to a consensus of sorts for everyone's well-being. I see Mark's hand is raised.
And I also saw Rick's hand after. Sorry, Mark. Rick after Mark.
I was wondering, and thinking about going back to in-person meetings, is it important that we evaluate the level of disease locally, and the Department of Public Health and the county? Is that who we should be talking with? And who there? How do we get contact?
As far as COVID numbers, you mean, Mark?
Yes.
I'm not sure about that. I feel like where I live, there's a report that's available maybe through the Department of Health each day, something like that. I don't know if you can rely on that information, but that's certainly an approach, you know, to go with what are the statistics in my area right now, and then okay, well, who's traveled and all of that. So there are complexities, but a good point. Anybody have a concrete answer for that?
Again,
Well, I think each public health, go ahead.
Every county has a Department of Public Health. So go to their webpage, you know, as frequently as you need to get an update.
Right.
You can also go to the state Department of Health, but again, you want to be more specific to your county, I would hope. And then your facility, between your facility and your county, those are the people who you'd most likely have up-to-date, you know, local information.
Right. And they all counties also have a public health officer. So you can, you know, if you want a person's name or something, you probably won't get them in person on the first call, but you could, some of those public health officers, like the one in Yolo County, has a lot of resources. And so on the website, there's not only things that are updated every single day, but there are some pieces you could pass on Facebook and just, you know, also be a carrier of the messages. So.
Wonderful. Thank
Mark,
you.
here in Solano County, I just go to type in the search engine, type in Solano County coronavirus, and it takes me right to the county's webpage on all that and all the information, facts, figures, what the requirements are, this and that are all right there on that same page. And also on that page, there's a little program you can click on and download. You can download your shot record then right straight to your telephone. So you can have your people download all their shot records right to their telephone, and they'll have that documentation for you at your meeting.
Great, thank you for that. And I'm not, obviously no expert, but just to point out too that I think a lot of people who are vaccinated may be carrying COVID and not know it. So they're not necessarily being reported to the county, and just to kind of keep that in mind as well. So Rick, did you have one more thing to say before we wrap up?
I kind of wanted to add on to what Fred said, that belonging to this other retired men's group that's trying to get together and socialize. And then we have a state board as well that sets requirements for us. One of the things that the state board was worried about is that if somebody came to one of our functions that was sponsored functions and came down with coronavirus, would they try to sue the state and everybody else? And there is no real liability insurance to cover that for the pandemic. So one of the requirements that they have set for the SIRS is that everyone will sign a waiver acknowledging that it's possible to catch coronavirus and they will not sue the SIRS, this and that. A couple of guys are retired lawyers, they drew it up. And so everybody signed a waiver for whatever functions. And then for any indoor functions, you must also show that you've had the shot, had the full vaccination. If you haven't had the full vaccination, then you're required to show a negative test within 3 days of that event that you want to attend. So indoors, it's a little more strict. And as Fred said, it really offset a few of the guys. Old men, we get set in our ways and whatever, and you want us to do something different, call it dadgummit, we ain't doing it. So that's whether showing a record or get the extra test or whatever, it did turn some people off, but things are slowly working around and we're coming back.
So many complexities as we are seeing right now. Karen, would you like to have the last comment or question?
A few comments. First of all, Rick, it's so nice to see you there and what you've developed and backfill. As far as getting back together, and meeting twice a month, what we're going to do once we may be able to meet together indoors at the senior center. So we're thinking that our senior center would be once a month, but that we may have another room outdoors. Anybody who wanted to continue that, and it would probably be some of us. Also notice that there are 4 of us.
Karen, I'm going to interrupt you. I'm sorry. There's something going on with your mic, and it's very hard to hear. It's going in and out. I don't know if, okay, so it's that.
Can you hear me now?
It's just, well, can you hold on to that thought? And I'm not sure if that external mic is actually helping you. I don't know what kind of, system mic you might have on your device. But we do want to hear what you have to say. It's just, it's too difficult in the volume.
Have her turn off her video so she could get her bandwidth decreased. Needs decreased.
We can't hear you at all now.
We can't hear you at all.
Karen, try turning off your video and then talking.
So that is an option, to turn video off, hitting your video camera icon, Karen. It can help with volume or audio sometimes. Let's try that. Are you speaking?
No, still don't work.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, Karen, but it's something to do with your mic. Yeah, if you can turn your video back on so we can at least see you. You gotta love technology.
Is
Okay,
there
so hold
is
on to
there
that
a way,
thought, Karen.
Shannon, is there a way that you can hook it up to closed caption type?
We have to turn on closed captions from the back end in Zoom, which I don't believe is on right now.
Right, but
I
I
don't
was
think
just thinking that might.
I don't think it would detect her voice well enough to be able to write it out. So unfortunately, we'll have to figure out how to fix that.
There's one more idea. I don't know if Kelly, you can walk her through the switch to phone audio feature of this Zoom, and then you can dial in Karen on your cell phone and it will link up to your video screen.
Yeah.
If Kelly can just
That's
help her
yeah,
with the
that's a good
directions to
idea.
do that.
So
Yeah.
if you could do that via chat, that would be wonderful. And then maybe we'll get you connected through your cell phone, Karen, so you can chat with Kelly. All right. Okay, so we've run over about 15 minutes or 20 minutes or so with this roundtable, but I think that it was worthwhile. Such rich discussion, really great. And Dr. Egley, I saw that little hand pop up. Did you want to say one more thing?
Well, are you wrapping up the whole meeting or just that part of it?
No, just that part of it. Yeah,
Oh,
we've got
okay.
a little bit more to do.
All right, just checking.
So yes, we have a half hour left, and so we've got some more things to. Are you good, Dr.
I'm
Egley?
good.
You have to leave.
No, I just wasn't sure what you're. I was thinking 11. It goes to 11:30. That's right. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, perfect. All righty. So to Tom, Trevor, and Daryl, I'm in the chat right now going to put my email address, and if you could please send me your contact information, and that way I can put your info onto a contact sheet, give that to the support group leaders so they can contact you about future informational sessions and such. Does that work?
Yes, we'll
Yeah.
do.
That works.
Great. Well, thank you to the three of you for coming today and for your input and sharing your time and just being, partners with us and being interested in our work. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And we're going to continue on with our program here. Thank you. Okay, everybody. So since we're running a little bit late, I suggest that we take like 2 minutes to stand up, get a drink of water, and if you need to run to the restroom, we'll come back and do a little activity with Rachel. So it is now 2:02 or 12:02 or 11, whatever it is, your time.
11:03.
Let's come at 5 after, please.
See you in a
One
couple
of those
minutes.
times.
All right. Do
Here
you
we
have the screen,
I will
Shannon?
share now.
So it has been brought up several times in the last couple of days how important it is to have a little bit of fun within your groups. And especially now, especially after this year and a half that we've all been in social isolation. But there's ways to do it in person and there's ways to do it on Zoom. And so I want to just talk about the importance of play as an adult. And there are scientific studies that show that having enjoyable activities can really benefit you in so many ways. It improves how your brain works and how your brain functions. Having some play and having some fun in your life helps you heal and establish and maintain relationships. So this is good for the new folks that are coming in that have never been introduced to your group. This is how to build these relationships. Also, like we said, it has so many benefits on your mental and emotional well-being. Just having that social aspect of your groups, interactions with each other and getting to know each other over the course of the time that you've been together really does help emotional well-being. And then also there's studies that say that it extends your life and it improves your physicality. So it's so good to have play, and you know, it's an important topic, and we have to be serious about play. So let's move on to the next slide, please.
Love that.
So we have thought of a number of different ways to incorporate play into your meetings. And here are some of the ideas, and you guys have also brought up some really, really terrific ideas. So let's start by playing some music when people are entering the space. Let's have it feel welcoming when they come into that room. Maybe some fun oldies that people can dance along to and reminisce about. How about having icebreakers? We've talked about it before. We have these meeting maker cards that you're going to be getting. These meeting maker cards have wonderful topics on them that you can bring up and have discussions. You'll get 12 of them, so one per month. You'll have a fun topic that we've given you. Awesome affirmations, just going around the room and sharing something positive about maybe the person next to you, sharing something positive and affirming to the group feels really, really good. Also going around the room and talking about something that went well this week. You know, I think who was it that said you start the meeting with something positive? Was it
Susan? Mm-hmm.
Susan? Yes,
Mm-hmm.
thank you. So this is that win of the week. Let's go around the room and say something great that happened to you this week. As minuscule as it could be in the grand scheme of things, it's still a win, and we still have to count them. And it's great to share them and have other people hear and think, oh, you know what? I slept 7 hours, and I don't ever sleep 7 hours. I got a really good night's sleep last night. How's about that? And then going around the room and giving a weather report. When we talk about weather report, we don't necessarily talk about outside weather. It's sort of our internal weather, how we're feeling inside. Are we feeling a little cloudy and foggy today? Or are we feeling bright and sunny? Or have we been blustery? Is it very windy in our atmosphere today? So I think that's a really great way to kind of set the tone and get the group involved. In my support group that we have, we've sort of created a resident joke teller. So we have somebody bringing levity to the group. And at the end of the group, we leave a few minutes at the end to tell our jokes. And it brings the smiles back onto people's faces after possibly, 45 minutes or an hour of venting and talking about some of the not great things that go on in our lives. There are great things, and let's just celebrate them. So somebody also brought up doing physical activities, meeting for exercises. We've got a support group in Southern California, Lauren Simmons, I think, where they meet outside. They meet in a park every week, and they have a walking support group. And so literally it's a group of 10 or 12 people. Some people are ahead of other people, some people are behind, and they have conversations with one another as they're walking. And it's a great way to be outside, to get exercise while you're giving support and sharing support. And then having a guest, if you have a rock steady boxing group, if you have a Tai Chi group, if you've got a yoga instructor in your area, ask them to come on. Maybe do a little bit of therapy during your group. That will also bring some levity to the group. And then there's games. There's all sorts of things that you could come up with. Art activities. The I Am Poem project is actually something that we're working on through PMD Alliance. And we're creating beautiful poetry in the Parkinson's community with this poem that Shannon's going to be doing a training for soon, or we're going to be doing a training for soon. But essentially, I am is that we're more than our disease. We're more than Parkinson's, like Susan said. And this poem allows people to really share their feelings about who they are. I'm not just an adult child. I'm a person too. And so sharing that. And then improv for Parkinson's has really kind of taken off lately. I don't know if anybody else has heard about the different groups that are going on, but there are some really terrific improv groups that are going on, and to learn a little bit about improv and then maybe bring it into your group. And at the beginning of each day, we have brought up how we want to incorporate this yes and to our lives, you know, and instead of being negative, we should continue conversations by saying yes and the next thing. And so that's something that was taken from improv, where, you know, you kind of build on one another's hilarity, you know, by saying yes and the dog barked at midnight, yes and, you know, whatever it is, to have fun with it. And then a couple of groups here, it sounds like, already do this socialization, like an actual get together for the group, not necessarily during your support group hour, or not necessarily let's talk about Parkinson's. Let's get out and have a happy hour and just chat with each other and get to know each other. I mean, how is it that we only know people from their Parkinson's? We don't know people before their Parkinson's. And so to be able to share life experiences with each other, to be able to share your hobbies or the loves of your life, or the places that you've traveled. It's all really such great things to really mold and get your group to have that level of consistency, and to have people wanting to come back. When you have these activities, it really is inviting for people, and it will make people want to return to your group.
That's
Okay.
great, Rachel. Wow. So many things. That was awesome. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can all see each other. And ideally, we'd be able to get more into the other activities that you all have done with success. We are running low on time, or short on time rather, and so I would love to invite Dr. Egley to unmute himself, and then he can comment on any of these things if he'd like, or we could jump right into Q&A for the last 15 minutes or so. But this is our chance to pick his brain as a psychologist or psychiatrist.
Psychologist. I don't do drugs.
Okay. Good. I like that.
Well, okay. There's a couple of things I would just want to get to, because I like that presentation about play and fun and making things interesting, because I think, so much of what people have missed during this time is enjoyment, connection, just having a life. They've been so isolated, locked down, all that sort of thing. And so, I think envisioning things as not just support groups in just the conventional sense, but opportunities just for pleasure. I mean, I kind of have this image, and sometimes if I see a couple and they're arguing and they're at each other all the time and everything, and one thing I'll say is, well, if all you talk about are the problems, you'll think that's all you've got. We need to go beyond that. And also, I say, if we resolve all the problems, that means you'll be good roommates. We need to work on the positive side of things, and because and I think that's a lot of what's been lacking during this whole period of time, at least for people I've seen. And so I think it's really important, whether it's music or going out or picnics and stuff. But the one comment I want to make is that I've heard, I mentioned this before in the group. you know, a request for outings, places to go, things to do, you know, that are appropriate. And, you know, in my mind, I'm just flashing on, you know, yes, parks are good. The Crocker Museum has docents. You could probably reserve a couple hours and have people come and get a tour of the Crocker Museum. It's accessible. There's an aviation museum with a lot of flat top. It's all very accessible at the airport. You know, there's many things that one could think of. In fact, and there's no reason why one support group has to be the one that does it. You know, like there's these meetup groups, everyone with a common interest. You know, I like to watch trains. Anyone who wants to watch trains, come here and let's watch trains together. I mean, I think, you know, it's possible that maybe a support group wouldn't be aware of something in their community and announce it to the other support groups and have kind of a meetup so that people from various support groups, but it's all the Parkinson community who could make it, could have something to do, which is pleasurable. They could connect with each other. You might get some intermixing of people who are in different support groups or areas. And I think, you know, that kind of thing is real possible. If I mean, I like the, like I said, the museum ideas and stuff, because Crocker's back open again. They require masks, but you know, you could go at a quiet time for the museum and you know, have a group. I mean, there's different ways of doing these things, but the idea is just what you were saying about sort of the play or the positive, that, you know, because if you go to a support group thinking, okay, this is all going to be talking about all the downer stuff. First of all, you're already thinking about all the downer stuff when you go, unless you know the people and you're familiar with it. But especially if you're a new person, I know people that stay away for those reasons, you know, and so I really like the idea of trying to bring the whole thing together in terms of coping, in terms of positives, in terms of what we can do, not just what we can't do, and all that kind of thing. But I love music, you know, I play music at the hospital, I play music at the Safe House for Placer County, and music can be very healing too. So I've got a ukulele book with 365 songs in it. And every oldie that you ever had is simple there. You know, one could pick one and start a meeting with it. You know, people would anyway, I mean, I think there's lots of good ideas, and I'll be quiet now because there might be some questions, but that's just a reflection on what's been said.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Eckley. Who has questions for him? And it doesn't have to be related to today's topics. It can be whatever's on your mind.
So I'm just wondering about experts in your field who specialize in Parkinson's, or are there, do they exist, and what should a person with Parkinson's take to a psychologist? What kinds of issues?
You know, unfortunately, I don't know of other psychologists who specialize in Parkinson's in our community to refer to. I'd like to know of them, but you know, I've spoken at the annual conference and such, and it's me or maybe social workers who are associated with clinics, or a couple of psychiatrists who see it. But psychologists, you know, if you look at their website and all, there are psychologists who do specialize in health aspects. Mm-hmm. So they'll deal with other chronic conditions, they'll deal with, you know, cancer, they'll deal with, you know, diabetes, they'll deal with there's health psychologists and stuff. So there are at least people who are more familiar with, you know, the medical world. Yeah. You know, and what it is like to work with a doctor, or to try to work with a doctor, and what it's like to live with a chronic condition. And you know, and so I would look and see, usually on their web pages, if it's actually a psychologist, they actually have a division of health psychology you can actually search for, like for the American Psychological Association or the California Psychological Association websites can have, if you're a member of those associations, they can indicate, you know, health psychology or experience in the medical area. So that's, unfortunately, that's what you'd have to look for at this point.
Yeah, I think it becomes difficult because the medical system is so different, you know, and they don't recommend a psychologist, you know, they can't recommend a psychologist. And so, you know, anxiety and depression are so high in people with Parkinson's, and, you know, just the constant turmoil of trying to stay balanced and on. So it's really, I think, an area that needs some attention for at least the connection, you know.
I agree. I mean, I think, you know, a lot of the doctors can refer people, like if you're in Kaiser, you know, they can refer to, but you know, I hate to say it, but the mental health services are really not that great to a large degree, you know. And if you have a sensitive therapist who listens and hears what you're talking about, you might have to give them some education. But if they're a good person, they have dealt with depression, they have dealt with anxiety, and they have dealt with issues of family and you know, relationship challenges of various kinds. So I think it helps, you know, that, you know, I know a lot about Parkinson's, you know, and it does help. And it really makes the conversation much quicker. You know, they don't have to explain anything to me. I already know, I know all the meds and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So, but it's not necessarily required to get support. Really what's most key is finding someone that you have a relationship with, that you feel you're heard and you're listened to, and they're respectful, and you know, that bond is really the key.
Right.
Karen wants to talk, and I think I should let her talk after all this.
So you'll need to unmute on your screen.
I'll cross my fingers.
I know.
Well, I'm on my phone now. Are you hearing me?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you,
Great
Rachel.
job, Kelly and Karen.
I just wanted to comment on what my friend there, the psychologist, was saying. And when I was taking care of my husband, I was a member of, and still am a member of Kaiser, but at that time I was in Oakland, and I was referred by my husband's doctor to the counseling center, to an MFT and a nurse practitioner. She met with me about once every 2 weeks. It was the most wonderful meeting, because she not only understood the medical aspects, like if my husband was on a new medication, she'd look it up for me. But of course, she supported me so much emotionally. So I'm just saying, if you are members of Kaiser, that could well be available to you as a care partner. Thank you.
Oh, Karen.
Thank you, Karen. And I see.
Oh,
go ahead.
2019, Beverly Chang is a geriatric psychiatrist. She was one of the panelists on the PANC conference. So for people in the Sacramento area, Beverly Chang, psychiatrist, geriatric psychiatrist, somebody, a name.
Right. You know, for primarily for medications, but she's I work with her in a number of times. So yeah, she's good as a psychiatrist. But it is a challenge. And, you know, one of the reasons I joined the PANC was because I would go to these meetings with the doctors, and they would talk about anxiety and depression and stress and adjustment disorder as non-motor symptoms of Parkinson's. And it always drove me crazy, because, you know, wait a minute, you know, these are symptoms of basically trauma in your life, you know, challenges and loss and all of that. You know, it's, you know, you'll have this, whatever the condition is. Yeah, there's certain aspects of Parkinson's, but I first just consider it, you know, the impact of what's going on that people are trying to find how to deal with. And that, I hated this with a non-motor symptom of Parkinson's. You know, it makes it look so brainy, you know, I mean, rather than life, you know. So that was kind of what first really brought me wanting to be part of the conversation. Anyway.
That's great, because I think I can so relate to that, because it's almost like a sidebar that, you know, you've got your Parkinson's, but you might have all these other things, like 400 of them, and they're not as important as the key diagnosis. And I went to a psychologist to try to find one that specialized in chronic diseases or Parkinson's, and I found one in Sacramento that does chronic diseases. She didn't know anything about Parkinson's. And I said, look, I don't want to come back for 2 years and you say, you know, how you feeling today, Susan? Because my answer would be different all throughout the day. Sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm down, sometimes I'm in the middle. But I want some tools. I want some tools I can use for anxiety, because I was getting dystonia, which is cramping of your muscles, sustained cramping, and was causing me tremendous anxiety because I felt like I couldn't even drive a car or go to the grocery store. So, you know, that worked fine for me, but I was really surprised when I did my search that I couldn't find anyone in the area, whatever their credentials were, that had the word Parkinson's in their bio, you know, or in their website. And it's a critical need, I think, for people who have self-management diseases. I'm very familiar with diabetes, and so I'm always comparing what I know about diabetes, and the self-education that people with diabetes get is so far superior to a person with Parkinson's. We've got to get there because, you know, this requires daily, hourly attention, you know.
Just last week, I had a first visit with a person who was told about 3 months ago by a neurologist in one of our primary main healthcare systems, you have Parkinson's, do this and come back in 6 to 9 months. Still.
Yep.
And this is in one of the systems where they're involved with PANC and all this stuff, but it was a neurologist, no communication. It wasn't until that person hit a physical therapist and they were stressed, and the physical therapist knew me, referred to me, and I told the person about PANC because he'd never heard about PANC, you know, or support groups or anything. So it's still, you know, not even just mental health referral, just information about helping the community at all is still, that was rather alarming. I thought that particular system was a little bit better than that.
I did too.
You know, it's disappointing.
It was shocking to me, you know, and it, we have, I'm in the young onset group, and we have people who have gone recently and been diagnosed recently who have no information, and they're coming for us for the basic information that they need to have. And somehow we have to make that better and realize there's, you know, a system of care that needs to, you know, maybe one person doesn't have all the answers, but it's a team approach, and we need to know who's on the team so that we can request it sooner than later, because a person progresses in the disease, and if they're depressed and they cannot manage handling a group like this one or any support group, they're not going to get outside their little box. They're just going to progress in their disease, and that's what happens with diabetes too. And the consequences are critical. So get off my soapbox.
Good.
Thank you for that discussion, to you, Susan and Dr. Egley. I see Susan in Yuba City. You have your hand up.
Yes.
Do you have a question?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. I have a question for Eric, and has nothing to do with Parkinson's. I want to know about that songbook you have for the ukulele.
It's called the Daily Ukulele. That's why it's got 365 songs in it.
Oh, that's wonderful, Daily.
But it's got all the oldies, a lot of new, relatively newies, the ones you grew up with, the campfire songs. I mean, kid songs, holiday songs.
Perfect.
So no, definitely.
I will look into that. My friend makes ukuleles, and he kind of likes to, you know, play and sing, and perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Awesome. Learning a new instrument is great for your brain.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, let's hear from Fred.
Just a question to Dr. Egley. Dr. Egley, you were talking about, you know, just anxiety and depression are a response to the trauma of life. I'd like your comment on the polyvagal theory.
Oh, you know, I mean, I don't feel like, I mean, I'm not an expert on that. I mean, I've read about it. I don't really base my practice on it. So, you know, and I know, and I have one of my colleagues who likes to interpret things that way. I don't know. I guess I'm not sure I find it that handy in a practical sense, but I haven't, you know, gone to a bunch of workshops for that. I mean, maybe I don't have you. I mean, do you have experience with that or anything in particular?
No, I just find it interesting because the idea is that a lot of things go on just because we've tried to stay safe, and that's the basic understanding. And that's how a lot of us respond in sometimes abnormal ways to keep ourselves safe. And if we can look at that and then explore ways to find safety in other ways, then we can get out of the depression, anxiety problem that we're having. But that's the basic concept.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, I mean, I've read it more from almost more anatomical physiology discussions, but I don't, I mean, I certainly think that's true. I mean, there's so many ways to conceptualize, because we can't really describe the complexity of how we operate. And so you'll find so many different conceptualizations of and how to work with it. And I just through the years, it's like there's a new one every 2 years that's current, but it doesn't necessarily, but for the most part, they haven't brought really new techniques or approaches that really transform the practice or anything. So I guess that's all I could say about that. But I think certainly, you can definitely consider so many things, and clearly a diagnosis like Parkinson's as a threat, threat to one's safety, to one's well-being. We also forget that a threat to our partner is a threat to us too, or to our child. If I see a car coming at my child, do I not feel threatened? It's powerful. And so threats to our loved ones, threats to our identity, like will I be able to continue this job or this work? I was talking about a musician. I had a professional musician who no longer could play his instrument. That's a threat to your identity, I mean, I think we can, we really have to see what it means to that individual. So that's what I would say, and find a way to deal with that as well as we can, and I might be experienced, but can't fix everything, I mean, these things can be very challenging, to deal with, and especially some of the anxieties, especially if a person has one beforehand, and you have the brain factors that are at play with Parkinson's. We don't ever really know. Is it 30% Parkinson's and 70% life changes? Is it 80% Parkinson's disease in the brain and 20%? I never can have that conversation, because we can't answer that question. I say we do what we know to do. We do what we think can be helpful. We treat what we can treat, and go with that. We can race our mind for hours trying to spin around. Is this just my Parkinson's, or is this the way I ought to be feeling under the circumstances? And does that mean I need to take some, Trileptal or some bizarre medication for my brain? I try to get away from spending too much time spinning our mind on that topic, and just try to be more practical. I'm pretty pragmatic. What can we do to help, regardless of where it comes from?
Well, I feel like we could talk for hours on so many topics with you, Dr. Egley. Thank you so much for your unique perspective and your contributions today. Really appreciate you spending your Saturday with us. And thank you to all of you who've shown up today. We have one more session. Can you believe it? At least we have enough time to take a snooze and get some sustenance in us. Anything from Myron before our break? No. Okay. All righty. Well, I hope this has been informative for everyone. And we have a little bit more to go. So get some calories in you. And thank you all again for coming. Thank you, Dr. Egley.
Thank you.
And we will see you at 2 p.m. Pacific time, same place rather, same Zoom link. Okay.
All right.
See you
guys in a bit. Bye-bye.
Take care.